So, this is the second part of my recent video, which was all about the Colgate timeline. This is meant to be a continuation of that, which is not normal whatsoever for my videos, but it's just what ended up happening due to the situation with my hard drive. But a new one is on the way, so it's not going to make a difference to you, but it's going to make a difference for me. So if you think that I'm kind of just like capitalizing and going ham on like this one person, I might say you're right, but in this video, we're going to be focusing a little bit on what we left off with the timeline, which will be focusing more on Ludwig, xQc, Kitty Cinderella, and just dog training in general. This was never meant to be its own video. This was meant to be the one and the same as the previous one, whatever. Enough explaining. So, a lot of people have covered a lot of ground here already, but this is like an old wound that just will not close. Like clothes? Yeah. I had some questions that other creators weren't really addressing, so I figured I'd do some digging myself and see what's up with all these collars, the training purposes, try and answer some questions people might have, I guess. I just thought it was kind of weird because everyone was so quick to just accept like shock and vibration collars as like humane methods of animal training. And my view in the beginning was that neither collar types are okay to use. However, through my research, I really tried to challenge my views, and in some ways I have slightly different opinions now, given the information I've read and seen. Some of my opinions are mostly the same, and to be honest, I'm gonna say it, I still think people have a right to be upset with Hassan. For many different reasons. And in some ways, I don't know if it was always about the shock collar itself. I think it was always about like the people feeling like they were being lied to or deceived in some way. And how that can kind of make you question a creator and the rest of their content in some kind of fashion. So, this is somehow the drama that keeps on giving. Are we tired of this yet? It's okay. This is the last video on it. I promise. Unless something like crazy happens tomorrow, but I think we're out of the woods with this. Hassan, rest assured, I think we're out of this. Except that there was like a couple more clips that came out of him talking about it and complaining, but who cares? That happens like every day. So, with moron after moron falling on their sword to protect Hassan, a new player has entered the game. Unnecessarily, mind you. Ludwig Van Noodle. We'll be going over that semi-recent stuff that happened between Ludwig and xQc because it interested me. So if it interested me, hopefully it interests you. And hopefully you haven't already heard all about that. So, we'll see. I was really kind of shocked about like Ludwig potentially lying and trying to expose xQc and like calling him like an evil human being, which I thought was, whoa, way off the top. Little bit dramatic, I think. And trying to leverage like a personal conversation they had, come on. So here are some questions you might be looking for answers on that I might be able to provide, and some opinions as well. Are shock collars bad? Are vibration collars just as bad? And are there any justified use cases for these collars in this particular context? Is it really animal abuse? Has Ludwig torched all credibility he had remaining? Tune in for my opinion and some answers you might want about dog collars. God, it's so weird recording this one again, but here we go. Yeah. Okay, disclaimer. I'm gonna put a little disclaimer here because a lot of this is, yes, circumstantial evidence, referring to the timeline. Theorizing, speculation. No, I do not have any close encounters or inside knowledge about anything in this situation. This is going to involve my opinion on things, and I'm not always right about stuff, right? So, there are also a lot of people who are kind of like, they don't like Hassan, and so they're very biased. I'm one of them, I'm biased too. And, you know, those people are really turning up the heat on all this. But sometimes criticism, although it may come from people we don't like, it's still valid. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you don't like the people saying some of this stuff, and that's okay. Sometimes people I don't like make good points, and sometimes you're writing an essay, you're doing research, and you figure out, oh, through the research, yeah, okay, maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe these people have a point. It's not going to be the end of the world to concede on some stuff, and I think I'm definitely going to concede on some stuff with collars specifically in this video, which is fine to do. If we're looking for, like, I don't know, fair and balanced criticism, I want to actually look at collars and listen to other people's use cases on this, and actually take in that some people really do benefit from them, and they don't need to use them that much. I was reading, we'll probably get into this, but yeah, I was reading like this one where someone said they only had to use the shock collar once. They said they put it like 5%, which I don't know if they have like a percentage setting, dude. So whatever 5% means to you. Fuck, it's always at 5%, isn't it? It was 5%. And they used it once, and their dog definitely, what they described, displayed fear, but then afterwards the dog's recall had improved immensely, and all they had to do from then on was the beeping sound and like vibration. So, you know, like I definitely read some people who had positive experiences with them, but then again, it's like you can't really ask the dog if the dog's had positive experiences with it, so we'll get into that later. So, remember guys, some of these people, like, we might be fans of, and they're human too. They make mistakes, we all make mistakes, and sometimes we make particularly egregious ones, sometimes silly stuff is blown out of proportion, and sometimes the criticism, I think, is quite justified. And in this video, my criticism of Ludwig, I feel, is very justified. But in some ways, I also do understand where he's coming from, the position he's in, Cutie Cinderella, her position. My perspective of her is that I think she just wants to be able to exist and do like her shows and stuff, and she just wants to do the podcast that she has with Hassan and co, because that's like a means for her to do that. I think she's under a lot of shit at the moment, and I don't particularly think she's bad in this whole thing. In fact, she is one person who confirmed that the collar is taped off in the spot where she thinks there would be prongs. So we have confirmation from another source who actually physically saw the collar, confirming it is indeed taped over. Have we been over this? Yes, we have. We're going over it again. It is possible the collar she saw wasn't the actual one, but let's just assume that the collar that Hassan showed on video was the one that he allowed Cutie to look at. Also, it wouldn't really make sense to me if he showed Cutie a collar that previously had prongs on it, unless he just didn't think she'd talk about it. I don't know. So all I want to say is that, like, yes, this drama is droning on, it's dragging out. I completely agree. I want to preface this by saying that I think it's less about the shocking of the dog in that moment, but more about how the situation was handled by Hassan and his mates. Although, in my opinion, I don't think a dog should be forced to sit in the same spot for 4+ hours. There's plenty of clips and footage showing this exact same situation occurring, showing the dog wanting to get up from her bed and not being allowed to. Like, does this happen all the time? Maybe not, but the times that it does happen, it's like, well, why? Like, what if your dog wants to go to the toilet? What if your dog just wants to get a drink of water? Like, why are you stopping your dog preemptively from getting off the bed because you think she's going to sleep on the floor? Well, if she goes to sleep on the floor, then just stop her. I don't know. Like, I'm not a dog trainer, but is that just something we could do maybe? I don't know. I also think the dog bed's too small for her. I might have said this already. I understand trying to prevent joint issues from sleeping on hardwood floors or maybe just like flat floors like that, but there's clips where she's sleeping on the floor and no one seems to care. So there doesn't really seem to be much consistency with it. I don't know. In this particular moment where the alleged shock happens, I think in my opinion, Hassan was just upset in the moment. He lost control, did something he regretted. Are we over this yet? It's okay if you are. I'm not forcing you to watch. My next video is not going to be about this anymore. Like, we're done after this, okay, gang? Okay, cool.
Previously on The Kardashians.
I think he lied about having a shock collar. I think he 100% had a shock collar based off what's on my For You page. But that 100% is a shock collar, as a fact. I feel like that shit is 100% a shock collar. But I got no clue.
I want to make sure if I know something, speak honestly.
After my stream, I got close-up pictures of the shock collar. I didn't see prongs. I'm pretty sure it's a vibrate collar. So maybe I should have said 99% sure instead of 100. I'm not making any other comments about whether he has a shock collar, has shocked her, whatever. I never made a comment saying he shocked her to begin with, but I just genuinely saw a picture of it after. It did have tape, and the tape was, I think it was covering or had his phone number on it or some shit. That's what the tape was. I think it was like covering a written. And I saw pictures on my mother's life. I saw a picture of it. Perhaps he went out and bought one, and this was a ruse to fool me. Perhaps stop farming it. I'm not farming it, but like I genuinely saw it. So it's like, am I supposed to sit here and not say I saw it? Because I saw this after I did the stream. Should I lie? Should I lie and say I didn't? I don't love this shit, bro. I'm just genuinely sitting here as a human. I saw it with my own eyes. And I went on live saying that it was a shock collar. So now I'm saying I saw it with my own eyes.
So after we've gone over what's previously happened on the last video, I'm gonna jump back into it from there on. You have to really wonder why Ludwig is so vague, saying, after my stream, I got close-up photos of the shock collar. You know, people are gonna hear that and think he's essentially saying he got the call, which it just reminds people of what happened before with his previous video that he had to take down and then re-upload with an edited section where he was nicer to Hassan or something. Of course, Ludwig said that he only did that due to Hassan's community and not Hassan himself, which I can see that. I can see that. So, Ludwig, who exactly showed you the photos? Was it Hassan? Is it your girlfriend who got her info from Hassan? Why can't we see the pictures? If it's so easy to show pictures to Ludwig to prove it's a vibration collar, show everyone else and prove it if it's so easy. Now, why not just come out and say it how it is, Ludwig? This is exactly why people have been haranguing him for 18 months. Not that I think that they should, but in his previous video, he had to take it down, re-upload it, and of course, people are going to speculate why he did that and think that, oh, the one thing he changed was the Hassan section, so clearly it's like got to be something to do with him. I feel like Ludwig omits details that are crucial, or he doesn't really seem to address things in a proper way, so I think that just doesn't help his case, you know? Ludwig says, I didn't see prongs, I'm pretty sure it's a vibrate collar. Well, interestingly, we already have kind of gone over this ad nauseum. So we had people ask the collar manufacturer. They said they believed it was one of their models, and they believed that the tape was there because the prongs had been cut off, and the tape is there to stop any discomfort to the animal. And funnily enough, they actually sell these pads for when if you do take the prongs off. They sell these comfort pads for just that scenario, which is interesting. I feel like Ludwig saying he's pretty sure it's a vibration collar at this point into Collargate, it's kind of stupid because we know that collars can have both shock and vibration capabilities in one, and his girlfriend already said it had the prongs removed that she could see. How does Ludwig not know this? Again, it seems like he actually knows less than what the internet does at this point, which is actually kind of amazing. He says it did have tape. Of course he has to concede that point, because once again, that's already been confirmed. And then if it had tape, you know, it begs the question, why did it have tape? Phone number underneath? Kaya has an air tag, she's microchipped. Also, in my opinion, if you're like a serious pet owner, wouldn't you get like an attachment for the collar that has like the number written on, like etched into like metal or something? I've seen those types of ones. Those are cute. They're probably not foolproof, but I mean, you're already microchipped and you have a fucking air tag. It's like, I don't know, what else are you gonna do? It feels to me that it's very scrappy, the idea of writing a phone number in like, I don't know, permanent marker on a collar. It's like, that shit could still rub off, couldn't it? It could get wet, could smudge. I mean, it is if it's permanent marker, then it's like, sure, but are we also forgetting that the phone number thing has no citation? There is no video that I have seen of Hassan being like, yeah, there's a phone number underneath it, I just don't want to dox myself. And To be honest, even if there was like a phone number underneath it, you could always just remove it. Like, let's not pretend permanent marker is invincible. Like, if you really wanted to prove your innocence and you had a phone number that you wanted to protect, you'd just take some rubbing alcohol, get it off, show the whole thing nude and proud, and then just put the phone number back on after the video. It's really quite simple, which the fact that there's like these simple avenues that were just not crossed makes you think, like, to its essence, it just doesn't feel honest. So Ludwig also says it was covering. What was it covering? The tape? Serial number, perhaps? Why would that be? Why would Hassan not want anyone to know the serial number of a supposed vibration collar? Could it be that it's because he's allegedly lying, trying to get away with it? Again, like I said, there is no citation for the phone number theory. From what I know, that's something that Taylor Lorenz said. She never provided citation for that. So at the moment, that is just an excuse, I guess. Until someone can show me a clip of Hassan saying that was before her saying it, I might believe him. Maybe. Ludwig says, perhaps he went out and bought one and it was a ruse to fool me. I mean, the fact that he says this, to me, indicates that the pictures he was shown were from Hassan, which might be obvious to everyone there, but it's like, okay, well, why not just say his name? Like, it's weird. I guess who else do you expect to see the photos from, but why not just say, Hassan showed me pictures? Could it be because he's unreliable at this point? It's like, honestly, why even say anything at all? He says, I genuinely saw it. You saw pictures of it. That's it. You know just as much as everyone else, or perhaps even less. And even if you went to Hassan's house right now, took a look, inspected it, there's a possibility that the real collar's long gone by now. The heart of the matter is that Hassan could have stopped this from the very beginning. If he was a truthful person, that is. He can whine and say, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody, y'all can make accusations, I don't have to do shit. And sure, he doesn't have to. But I think things would have gone a lot better if he was just up front in the first place. Like, sure, he would have gotten some flack, but it wouldn't have been to the degree that it has been, I reckon. Like, that's my opinion. So then we have Ludwig allegedly lying on xQc's name. Dude, I have to say, this was pretty shitty. This is, I don't like people who do this. Ludwig has taken a conversation that him and xQc had in private at TwitchCon, and bringing that into this feels pretty shitty to me. And I don't think it particularly matters as much as Ludwig thinks it does. And at the end of the day, Hassan is the one fanning the flames of this drama as much as anyone. He reads chat, he responds to their questions sarcastically, he makes a show of it. He shows the collar in a pool way. Hassan is still having these moments where someone is asking him a question and he's making a whole big sook about it and getting clipped on it. I don't know if he's getting baited or what, but he's still doing it. I don't know, for Ludwig to be like, xQc is the biggest person on Twitch, sparking like the outrage, it's like, I just don't think that's true. And if you've watched Collargate, if you've looked at collargate.com, is it, yeah, I think it's collargate.com or something, I don't remember, the archives for Collargate, you can see so many different people talking about this so early on, and it's just like, to take all of this whole situation and put it on xQc, it's an odd move to me, I'm gonna be real, it's odd. And also, like, pretty, I get to use this term, it's pretty bad faith, I feel. Bad faith. Learned that this year. Boy, I've been hearing bad faith a lot these past few years. So as you saw in my timeline portion of, not this video, but the last one, if you watched it, there are so many different huge content creators who have been covering this situation just as much as xQc, if not more. And there was even a lot of other stuff I couldn't fit into this video, and does it even matter if it's like some dude on Twitch who's talking about it a lot when literally, like, Hassan's situation is on Fox. It's on Fox News. They're referencing it in legacy media. They're talking about it. I mean, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things if xQc is a large Twitch streamer who is also talking about it? I mean, yeah man, what are we doing here? Ludwig says, xQc calls himself the debunker. He takes joy in this because he doesn't care about the dog being supposedly abused. So, from what I remember hearing recently, because it's relevant to my next video, xQc, he is motivated by winning. He says so himself, he likes to win. He's motivated by dumb shit and is pretty open about that. I think xQc would say that the fact that Hassan is the one who's been getting roasted the most is probably a bonus to all of it, but yeah, I mean, look, he's putting on a dumb character to cover something that is serious. Taking a serious subject and adding humor to it is something that the media has always done. xQc is being entertaining because who the fuck wants to watch a boring-ass video about something serious when they can be entertained and perhaps learn something at the same time? Now, I'm not trying to say xQc is some kind of education channel, but is helping to bring attention to something that's understandably fucking suspicious and weird. And he's not the only one. Again, like someone, you can't be surprised that someone like xQc is kind of like competitive. I think he sees it as like a competitive thing. Like he's got to figure out the situation perhaps. I don't know. Wholly parasocial, am I right? So Ludwig also goes and says that xQc, he's a chaotic evil human. As like I said before, are we being just a little bit dramatic? At all, maybe? You know what I think makes someone an evil human being? Dismissing cultural genocide of the Tibetan people and refusing to cover this tragedy that's been ongoing for decades. Repeating propaganda because it's a convenient excuse to not talk about something that you're afraid your audience might hate you for. Anyway, according to xQc and his partner, Ico Bliss, Ludwig's statement doesn't reflect how they feel the conversation went, and I feel inclined to believe them. Now, you know xQc, I know he's was a fan of the show here at one point. Yeah, yep, watched one of my videos, yep. Probably forgot all about it. But I just had to mention that because I'm never gonna stop talking about that. That was like the craziest thing ever. So, sorry, but I'm never gonna shut up about that. Oh, it's already been like 2 or 3 years. Oh, I'm gonna keep going. Anywho, listen, the reason why I'm inclined to believe xQc is because I just don't get the vibe that he is the type of person that has a lot to lose. Wholly parasocial. I think xQc realistically, he doesn't really have to worry about his audience losing favor of him. His audience isn't really the type to hold him accountable for stuff. And I think the whole vibe over there is very chill and memey. I don't think his audience takes a lot of stuff seriously anyway. It is what it is, right? I don't think xQc even has like any vested interest in the LA streamer scene either, right? So that's like some reasons why I feel like I am more inclined to believe his perspective of things, because as we talked about in the timeline video, xQc did speak up about Ludwig bringing up their private conversation. xQc and Ico Bliss, they mentioned that they had conversations with Ludwig and Cutie that were private, and that they're obviously not going to speak up about what was said privately between them. And, you know, I think, yeah, that's the way to go, because if someone's going to do that, like, that's pretty scummy. Like, I think we've glossed over way too quickly just how scummy it is to have a private conversation and then take it, I don't know, I don't want to say it's out of context, but I'm sure I can kind of see Ludwig having that interpretation of xQc's words, but xQc said that in the grand scheme of things, it's really not the end of the world if he did shock it. He said, yes, it's bad, but I'm not going to act like he killed someone. And it's like, I think a lot of people would find that kind of fair. Like, yeah, it's bad, but are we going to start acting like, I don't know, Stephanie Sue on Rotten Mangoes or whatever? And like how intense those like crime YouTubers can be sometimes. Love her work, by the way. But so like it's like a xQc doesn't make that kind of content. I don't know. This isn't that. And I get that. That's the vibe that I get anyway. So a reason why I'm personally less inclined to believe Ludwig is that all the people out here defending Hassan and the collar, as we saw in the timeline video, have been proven to be untrustworthy people. Their stories keep changing every single fucking week. It's one of the reasons why this drama has dragged on for as long as it has, and they keep spinning new things, and they just don't add up to the majority of people viewing the drama. I think everyone can agree that taking a private conversation and making it out to be something it might not be, it's pretty scummy behavior. Also, xQc, as I've said time and time again, is not the biggest person talking about this drama right now. We have Moist Critical, Asmongold, H3, Hassan even, Cutie, Jason the Ween, FaZe, I guess, FaZe Clan, FaZe Clan in 2025. All these people are talking about this drama, like, it is literally huge. I know he said xQc was the biggest person on Twitch, but again, like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, literally everyone and their fucking grandmother knows about this. Again, it's on TV. You say he's the biggest person on Twitch? I disagree. I don't think he is. Sorry, xQc. Sorry. I think a lot of people would agree with xQc in some way, and I think there could be an aspect to Collargate that the alleged shock collar might have been accidentally set too high, and Kaya got spooked, understandably, and that's why she yelped. At the end of the day, the shock was bad, but it was perhaps an accident. A lot of people have already said they're not entirely upset about the collar itself, but the way the situation was handled, which can be very indicative of someone's character. The only person I feel bad for in this situation, apart from Kaya, is mainly Cutie Cinderella. She's caught in the middle of some pretty shitty stuff right now, dealing with a lot of her own personal issues. She's even in some hot water right now, actually, funnily enough, because she was recently defending hanging out with, like, racists and homophobes, aka FaZe and her family. I don't have all the context for that stuff right now. It's beyond the scope of this video, but I guess you should be aware that that convo is happening right now. Like, I'll acknowledge it, but I don't really know what I think about that, to be honest. There was a clip recently of Cutie saying how Ludwig wants to have kids with her, but she's not sure if she wants to or if she's even able to. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big thing, and I know from watching her podcast whine about it, she's been seeing specialists for a while trying to figure out how to treat her condition, which is preventing her from being her fertility and stuff, or something about that. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome or something. And it's quite difficult because she's actually, like, deathly afraid of going under general anesthesia, but she might have to in order to fix some issues that are blocking her fertility. She might not actually have to. I'm not sure. I didn't get an update on that situation because I haven't watched that podcast in a while, but yeah, so she's also not sure about being a mother. Why am I talking about this? Keep listening. I think times are kind of tough and weird for Cutie and Ludwig right now. And the added intensity of Hassan's community coming after them is probably not great. They're probably getting flack from everyone, not just Hassan's community. I think it's kind of one of those things where it reminds me of that cruel world happy mind chick who just managed to piss off all sides of everything and was caught in the middle of that, and that can't be easy, I gotta say. That can't be easy. So what Ludwig has been doing right now about, like, talking about xQc the way he has been, he might be doing what he's doing to help his girlfriend defend Hassan a little bit and not have the entire internet commenting at Cutie that her boyfriend is an Israeli propagandist and that she's one too by associating with him. Dear God, if that was happening. So I think with Ludwig, he tried to get out and talk about his true feelings. He got backlash for it, and it wasn't easy to deal with. Both him and Cutie have been harassed by Hassan followers, I can assume. I mean, Ludwig even mentioned it back ages ago when he had that video that he was kind of making fun at Hassan for saying streaming's like a hard job, and his fans all, like, went at him for it. It's like, yeah, I can see that, right? I imagine for a while Ludwig has not actually been in Hassan's circle or his crowd. I do believe he exited that long ago, or maybe he was never even in that to begin with, but I do believe Ludwig has more, like, real buddies that he makes content with now, like people who he actually likes spending time with. So it's less of, like, a co-worker relationship, and it's more like mates just, like, recording themselves having a good time, I guess. So when Ludwig says that he made new friends and mates, I believe that that's made him more of an independent creator than if he were to be buddies with Dan Clancy's favorite streamer. Yeah. Happy birthday. So Ludwig doesn't need Hassan. He has no need for him, really. I guess, if anything, it's just avoiding the wrath of his community. But Ludwig has his own successful channels and podcast, and his girlfriend, however, well, Cutie has her own success, don't get me wrong. She has a lot of money, though, closely tied with Hassan, I think. Virand is recorded at Hassan's house, and Cutie, I think, has a fair amount of money to lose if she loses that gig, in my opinion. So making the working environment for Cutie worse is not good. Ludwig coming out and saying he's no friend of Hassan's makes things awkward and hard for Cutie, and yeah, you can merely say like he was just talking about it as a co-worker relationship at best, and you know, you're not going to be buddies with all your co-workers, that's for sure. But the way he put it, considering the situation, like the delicacy of it all in that moment, I don't know how else Ludwig expected people to take that, especially like the people who are like, big day for the unemployed, eh? Chronically Online and the unemployed. The Virand podcast makes roughly a little over 100,000 a month, according to Graphtreon. Virand has been actually doing pretty well in 2025. I think they've had consistent growth. However, the graph, you would have seen the graph in the timeline, and the graph did indicate some loss in revenue and fans, but so far, not a whole lot of negative movement was seen there, and that was like well after the drama. So I don't think it's actually affected Virand too much. Now, I'm making a lot of assumptions. At the end of the day, it's just my speculation. Holy moly. The parasocialism. Parasocialism? Oh my god, what's that? So, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, and, you know, this is what I've gathered from what I've watched and such, what I've seen. Ludwig, for me personally, I only ever saw him as like a side character in other people's content. I never consumed his content personally. I find his podcast to be more of like a boys club for dudes. And you know what? It makes sense. You can make content that's for guys. That's fine. I'm just not into the frat bro energy. His regular YouTube content is not super interesting to me either. What I've seen, it's usually just covering stuff that I already know about or I'm not interested in, so I'm not going to re-listen to a situation hashed over again, unless it's like funny or interesting commentary. And I'm sorry, I just don't find him to be very funny or interesting, so he does seem very energized and on top of stuff, like a really extroverted on-the-go guy, and that's just not for me. Sorry. Also, can we talk about how often he has to swear in his mother's life here in this like video? When someone has something to say, and they have to preface it with, I swear to God on my mama's life that XYZ happened, I am kind of less likely to believe you, or I feel like you're just saying that. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like that. People have to say it over and over again. It's just less convincing than someone who just shows you who they are. I myself have a bad habit of saying, to be honest, before I say things. I might have even written it in the script here at some point, actually. I'm aware that there are people out there who might find that untrustworthy, but to be honest, it's just something I have a bad habit of saying. Ugh, deja vu, I already read over this. Last time we're rehashing this, so, why is there tape? Well, people have denied that there's tape initially, said it was photoshopped, and most notably, what I noticed is that, you know, Taylor Lorenz was calling herself a journalist, a real journalist, but the fact of the matter is that she made claims about the tape that is there to conceal a phone number when, to my knowledge, again, Hassan has never said that was the case. She states this very confidently but provides no citation or evidence for this claim, and I like that that was pointed out in the Medium article because I don't really think about that. Not adding citation to something like that kind of claim, I think on Taylor's part is a misconduct as like a journalist. I think if that's her speculation, if that's her opinion, she should be disclosing that in her video to her audience. So I agree with the Medium journalist. I think it really does call into question the intentions of Taylor Lorenz as a supposed reporting journalist. independent journalist. And yeah, it makes you really think about like what her intentions are with that. Again, like, I'm biased. I don't like her. I don't like Hassan. But again, she, like, no one made her do that stuff. She did that stuff. Again, if I can see some sort of evidence that she is not the person who brought up the taping and it was Hassan saying that it was covering a phone number, then please show it to me. I will happily redact that. I will happily retract that. That's how I feel about it. So the fact of the matter here is that these people know about as much as we do. All these people defending the tape, excusing it. The fact of the matter is that these people say very confidently one thing and circumstantially get proven another thing by another party. I just don't understand all this stuff. Like, this whole discourse has been such a mess. We had Sasha Grey saying that it was impossible for the prongs to be removed. I don't know what she was trying to say about that. I really don't get it. You can't take them off. Like, I genuinely don't understand what... Could there have been some other meaning in that? I don't know. Maybe like, the other meaning that I could possibly think of is that the prongs can't be removed and then the collar continued to be used in a safe way. Because you imagine, like, they're like metal little screw type things, right? So if you try to take them off and you just put tape over it, like, that might not even be super protective. I don't know, like, it might still be kind of rough there or jagged. You could file it down maybe and it'd be fine. But like, here's the thing, it's like, even trying to interpret what has been said in like a good faith way, or I don't even know if it's good faith, but like, just trying to see what their point of view could possibly be, and I'm not seeing it. So if anyone can tell me what they mean by the prongs being impossible to be removed, please let me know. Please tell me how that works. So since we have Cutie confirming this tape on Hassan's own video, we see the physical bulges of where the prongs would be. We also have the Medium reporter who sent the screenshot of Hassan's hand holding the collar, asking the manufacturing company which model it could be. You know, truthfully, there's no way to really know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, what collar that is without the tape being removed and seeing the serial number. If it were to be a vibrate-only collar, it's like, why not just come out the gate and say that? Why not just show us that? Now, me personally, I never knew about vibrate collars. I only ever thought they were like shock ones. So I did what I normally do and I did some research on it. Oh, Denim's shudders to think. Real research. Now, I'm not a vet. I'm not an animal trainer. I've helped with dog training before. My best friend has a really cute border collie who I've looked after, and I'm about to sound like one of Hassan's orbiters. She's a very good dog, she's very well behaved, she's well trained as well, and I was with my best friend when she was training the dog to not pull in the lead during walks, which happened quite a few years ago now. She didn't need a prong collar, she probably didn't need one because she isn't that big and unmanageable for us like petite-sized women. And she definitely didn't need a shock or vibration collar. And knowing my best friend, she'd never want to use one anyway. So there are plenty of different ways to teach dogs how to behave in a desirable manner. Again, we're going to get more into like the collar usage. Yeah, I'd say my opinion has always been like, there's so many different ways for positive reinforcement. I feel like you do need to exhaust those before you resort to something like this. And to be honest, this dog that I was talking about before, this dog has never had like behavioral issues, not really. She's very sweet, she isn't aggressive, she never has been. She just doesn't like it when dogs come up to her face, because those dogs can be off lead, out of control. Some dogs, everyone who's like walked their dog at a park or something has seen these dogs and these type of owners where they let their dogs off collar, off leash, whatever. The dogs run up and go everywhere. They have no recall whatsoever. It's fucked, dude. And those are the kind of dogs who get up in your face with no thought about, like, I don't know, space, a sense of space. Those are the kind of dogs that piss that dog off. But again, she's not like a reactive dog. So we are going to now talk in detail about what exactly an e-collar is and the supposed differences of these collars. So, during some research, I found a dog training Reddit. Don't worry, I didn't do all my research on Reddit. I watched some dog trainer videos, I read some articles from different places. I really did try to challenge my viewpoint, which is that all shock and vibration collars are bad. And there are two Reddits primarily here that I noticed. One that is vastly more popular, r/dog training, and the less popular one, which is r/open dog training. The key difference between these is that dog training seems very passionate about encouraging positive reinforcement, and open dog training allows for discussion and conversation about all types of training like prong collars and e-collars, and is very open-minded about all these different methods that involve, negative reinforcement. So there is one side of the table that believes you can do everything with positive training. There is no dog that cannot be fixed with positive reinforcement. And I've seen that repeated with some content creator. I think Susan Lambert. Susan Lambert is in like the whole Colgate timeline. She said something about having plenty of reactive dogs that are not just reactive, like really bad behavioral problems. She gets dogs with behavioral problems, and she manages to get rid of those issues without the use of shock collars. But then you have some other people, there's this other guy on YouTube who used to deal with cases where actual people were getting called on for being abusive to animals and cruel. So he'd seen the worst of the worst when it came to animal abuse and cruelty. So his opinion was very different as well. He thought that there was nothing wrong with how Kaya was being treated, or he did. It's hard to say because it seems like he kind of retracted a little bit of like his initial video, but he's the type of person who had no prior knowledge about Hassan or anything, but people wanted his opinion. His opinion was that Hassan was actually very quick to address Kaya's behavior when she was getting off her place, so he was actually quite responsive and did the collar at the right moment if that's what happened. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, so there's also one side of the table that believes that they shouldn't be vilified for using different methods which involve negative reinforcement, and I do think it's important to have an open mind and, think about these things a little bit and try to see other people's perspectives, even if it's uncomfy or it's challenging to what you thought about the world to begin with. I spilt barbecue sauce on my jacket, so don't ask how, but I'm wearing something else now. So, we're going to talk about e-collar usage. And first things first, I'm going to address the difference between e-collars, vibration collars, shock collars. By the way, some of those like cone collars that you put on your pets when they have their balls chopped off, it's called an Elizabethan collar sometimes too. But sometimes they call it an e-collar, so that's confusing. The argument of the ethical use for these collars has been under debate for many, many years before this whole thing with Hassan came up, and it will definitely continue for many more years to come. That I can promise you. There are a few countries and places in the world that have outright banned the use of these collars, so I would like to say that if these shock collars are so integral to the training of some dogs, it seems like people can get by perfectly fine without them. Some states in Australia consider shock collars illegal, but have some exemptions, but the majority of them find them to be okay in general. So if we look at the actual website, the RSPCA, they say in the state of ACT, they're not legal. New South Wales, they're not legal. Northern Territory, yeah, they're legal. Exclude electrical devices allows for the use of electric training collars on dogs, excluding collars operated by remote control device. Queensland, yes, and Queensland is the only state that doesn't have any prohibitions. Love that. Love that for you, Queensland. South Australia, they are banned. Oh, well, it says it prohibits the use of an electric device to confine or control an animal. Okay. So in Hassan's case, might not be okay. It's a little jokey joke there. Tasmania. I often forget Tasmania exists. prohibits the application or exposure of an electronic device to an animal in the course of any sport or public performance, or in the training for any sport or public performance. Ooh. Yeah, so if your dog goes to like dog shows and it performs, you can't use shock collars in those sports or performances or in order to train them for those things. I think that's good. I can see that being very good. We don't want people to be encouraged monetarily to use these devices, as it could get dicey pretty quickly. Victoria, use of authorized electric collars is permitted subject to conditions and exemptions. Western Australia, yes. Under review currently. Okay. So it seems like currently they prohibit the use of electric shock devices, but a defense in Section 7 of the regulations allows the use of electric training collars on dogs. Okay. So we have that to look forward to. This is also where I found out that we have laws around electronic ejaculators, which I was more than happy to take a look at because it's kind of funny to just stumble upon that, but in reality, I don't think it's not actually that funny. It seems that under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Regulations 2019, you can use electronic e-guzzlers for your livestock under vet supervision and approval. Moving on. One thing that I noticed is that a lot of people are against both vibration and shock collars. A lot of people are saying shock collars were merely rebranded to be e-collars, which I personally think is true. People often use the term e-collar interchangeably for both shock and vibration collars, and for me, a quick Google search using the term e-collar came up with shock collars in the top results. And it's interesting, when you look at those product descriptions, they actually refer to correction methods as either static, vibration, or tone. So now they're referring to shock as static. So reading all of this has definitely made me think that there's some massive rebrand for these types of collars going on, and I mean, yeah. Saying shock collar is definitely not great sounding, but let's call it what it is. I mean, even as a human, I get static shocks all the freaking time, and I fucking hate it. But at least I understand that when I wear my Crocs to the shops, I'm probably gonna get shocked. Dogs don't have that understanding. And, to be clear, yes, it seems that shock collars are different to vibration collars. Some people were saying that they're the same thing. Are they the same thing and that in that they are a negative stimulus? I would say so. It might depend on some cases though. Are they the same in that they're the same feeling? No, I don't think so. It seems like the reason to use these collars is very important when considering if they're the right way to go. Like I said earlier, they may be useful for preventing your dogs from getting injured. If you're, for instance, a farmer, you might have a massive property, you might have electric fencing. If you have coyotes to worry about, rabbits that your dog might get obsessed with chasing, that just makes them forget about their recall. There can be a few reasons why you might need a collar to help with recall in the case of panic and an out-of-control dog. A reason why you might use a vibration collar, for instance, is in the case of having a dog that is deaf. However, if you have a deaf dog, vibration collars must not be used for correction, only to get their attention. That's what I read. So there was this post from about 7 years ago. People were still saying back then that both shock and vibration collars work by punishing the dog with harm in order to get them to do the desired behavior. It doesn't matter if it's a gentle vibration. Some people refer to it as like a clicker, but then in that case, why not just use a clicker then? I actually don't know if there's any issue with clicker training, because like, not to sound like denims for a second here, but yeah, clicker training is something that people use for cats all the time. I don't think there is like, I think the only negative reinforcement that people use with cats is like spray bottles, like water bottles and shit, which I think is horrible. I think that that's bad. I don't do that. I think it's not good. But then it's like, in some cases, like, you know, our cats, they jump up on the benches all the time, and you really have to, like, there cannot be food anywhere. Capiche? You cannot leave food out anywhere for like a minute because the cats will just go after it. And I don't know, I think we've missed our window of opportunity to teach them because they're so old, but yeah. So I don't know how you'd really deal with that. I don't think you can even get these kind of collars for cats. Anyway. So I like to have you think about it this way. Think like a dog. You have no outside knowledge of what a shock or vibration collar is. You just know you wear this thing, it's really tight on your neck, and it's uncomfortable. There's no disputing that, in my opinion. The collar has to be tight to work. Also, a dog's neck is very sensitive. It has a lot of nerves and important blood vessels. When using a shock on the dog, you're just using the psychology of a negative associated with an action, so therefore your dog learns not to do the action to avoid the negative feeling. You teach the dog to do as you say, or you'll inflict otherworldly, mysterious zapping or vibing to its neck. You can teach dogs the same stuff by using positive reinforcement. There's also a lot of different ways to teach dogs in a humane and ethical way. Usually if one method doesn't work, you can try something else. You don't have to and probably shouldn't default to shock collars. Vibration collars shouldn't be used unless your dog's diagnosed as deaf. Another thing to think about is that the neck is such a vulnerable and touchy area for any living being. Some dogs can get spooked when touched on the neck and will go to bite as like a reaction out of fear. Having a zap directly attached to that area, that can happen at any moment for any reason, is psychological torture in my opinion, regardless over whether it's gentle or not. The thing is, with animals, they all have unique personalities and can be very fearful of things like these collars. But another thing is that animals, they can't tell us how they feel. We have to rely on some body language indicators, but even then, they can be kind of hard to read sometimes. When Hassan pulled his dog Fish by the tail, Fish wasn't able to tell him, hey, that hurt and that can cause permanent issues to my body, so don't do that. We react the way that we do when we see that because we have learned from a young age just how cruel tail pulling can be. I believe defaulting to shocks and vibrations as a training method, I think it's lazy. I also think that a lot of people do it because they can't be bothered walking their dog on a lead. I remember just how much work it took my friend to train her dog. It was every single day, the same stuff, repeated over and over again until the dog got it. It wasn't efficient, but it was arduous training with positive reinforcement and redirection. It meant she had to sacrifice a lot of her own time to ethically treat this dog and teach it, but in the most humane way. Vibration collars apparently don't work as quickly and effectively as shock collars do. Vibration collars do offer different levels of intensity. Vibration collars work best when used alongside positive reinforcement. So there's probably some uses for the general population with vibration collars if you've exhausted all other means of positive reinforcement. The point of the matter is that vibration collars can be scary to some dogs. Every dog is different. They have unique personalities like us. Vibration collars can also just not work on some dogs. They ignore it. The collars can be uncomfortable if too loose, but cause irritation if on for too long of a time. And finally, dogs with long hair or thick fur, they might not even feel it at all. Kaya, as Hassan said himself, she has a lot of neck fur. He says neck meat, but she's got a fat neck, tons of fur. Everyone's been saying this, she's a fuzzball. I wouldn't be shocked if she couldn't feel vibration collars very well at all. So my last point on collars is this. There's two ways that this can go. One, the dog knows the collar is what produces the shock, so it will only do the desired behavior when the collar is on. Or two, the dog has no idea what causes the shock and lives in perpetual fear of being shocked. The dog won't know exactly what actions result in getting shocked, so it produces great results. But on the other side, your dog lives in fear 24/7, producing a more fearful behaved dog. So my take on collars, my personal take is this. I don't believe you need a shock collar to train your dog unless yours is maybe like a service dog, you've exhausted all other options of positive enforcement, and you need to make sure your dog is safe because you're a farmer, for instance. A service dog, they need to have their training down. Service dogs are bravely and intelligently looking after human lives, and they save people who are vulnerable. You need to be able to depend on them. And I'm sure that in some cases where a shock collar may be used, it's being used properly and with a reliable trainer and as humanely as you can with that sort of thing. Using a shock collar to get your dog to sleep on its tiny bed in frame of your stream is, in my opinion, not a humane nor proper use of a shock collar. I don't believe the argument that Hassan's protecting Kaya's joints, and that's personally not convincing to me. There was a veterinarian who actually came out to disavow Hassan's method of protecting her joints, and, was claiming that she actually needs to be able to move around more because staying in one place for hours on end will make the joints stiffer and more painful because blood flow to those areas is going to lessen from being sedentary. I also don't get this insistence that the shock and vibration collar is a necessary thing because he's taking the dogs on walks without a lead. Walking a dog without a lead, in my opinion, is just shitty and stupid, and I think it's kind of lazy. I'm gonna piss some people off here, but I think it's on par with cat owners who let their cats outside with no supervision. If you're, say, at a park playing fetch with your dog, and you need a shock or vibration collar to get it to return to you, I feel like that's not a very well-trained animal. I've been around plenty of nature spaces where dogs play with their ball and they're able to do it without getting distracted and being very obedient, and guess what? None of them were trained with fucking e-collars. I've also seen a lot of people who walk their dog off lead, and these dogs, they run up to other people's dogs wanting to play, and it's just not good. I think that these off-lead dogs that want to fuck with other dogs just end up instigating more shit that the owner has to deal with. And these dogs, they almost never return to their owner on command. It's like, they're out of control, not gonna lie. This is the vibe Hassan gives me with his bragging about Kaya being an off-leash dog. And I've seen videos of him taking her for a walk with, there's one video where he was walking her with NMP lol. And, I mean, it does seem like she has really good recall already, or she, really sticks with you. And it's impressive, but it's like, why can't you just have a dog with a lead? She's not even that out of control for Hassan. He's such a big person that it's like, I don't know. I guess if you're having other people look after the dog who are not as big as you, then I don't know, maybe there is a use case for that. But if she's so well trained and she's such a good dog when it comes to recall, I don't know. Yeah, it could be a thing that maybe people like Caroline Kwan said that she babysit Kaya, but does that mean that she took her out on walks? Then it's if they're not taking them out for walks, then actually maybe throw that out. I don't know. But yeah, I can totally see people finding walking a dog on a lead as being chuggy or whatever, and they're just I want a dog that I don't have to have on a lead. So another thing that Hassan says is that the e-collar is good when they're hiking and Kaya gets too far away from him, so he loses that ability to call her directly to return. I'm sorry, maybe I'm uninformed, but I have always been under the impression that dogs have extremely good hearing. Are you telling me that you're letting your dog go so far away from you that it doesn't even have the capacity to hear you yell anymore? And we know Hassan, that guy, he loves yelling. Also, what do you mean you're letting your dog run around on a hike where there could be potentially hazards and distractions? Your dog could get bit by a snake, your dog could run up to another person and their own dogs, their children. It's pretty rude in the dog world to let your dog do that. And even if you use the collar to get your dog to return before any of that happens, it sounds like you should just put him on a fucking lead. I think you should regardless, in my opinion, especially a big dog like her. She could topple over a child and hurt them if you're not careful. Anger another dog, have an incident. I don't believe Kaya would do that because she seems like a really timid and gentle dog, but I also haven't been around her at all, nor when she's out in nature and in a stimulating setting, so who is to say when it comes to that? Keep your dog on a fucking leash. That's the most responsible thing to do, I reckon. Maybe we just have to worry about snakes here because it's like Australia and stuff. Like, maybe in fucking California you don't have to worry about that shit, but then, I don't know. It's like, I just don't get this like obsession with off-lead dog stuff. So in conclusion, I think Kaya's confinement to her bed is almost like an invisible cage. It's a lot less visually confronting. I think there is a lot of different instances where Hassan has been, in my opinion, abusive and neglectful of his dogs, and taking that pattern into account, if, you know, it's there, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a case here with Kaya. At the end of the day, however, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence, but Hassan fans would demand that we have Hassan himself saying it's a shock and nothing less. I don't personally think we'll ever really find out if it was for sure or not. I think the window of opportunity for Hassan to clear his name has gone, and when he didn't address it immediately, it's kind of cooked there, I believe. I don't think the defense of him thinking that it was never going to be an issue, I don't know if I believe that. I genuinely just think that this guy believes that he can use Jedi mind tricks on the internet and try and go, yeah guys, shock. This never happened. There's no shock. What is a shock? So, my advice is this. Just be honest and open when you're on the internet and don't fuck with cats or dogs. From YouTube to me, to you. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Last one about this whole fiasco, I promise you. Next video will be hopefully interesting. It's something that's interesting to me, kind of close and personal to me. So I look forward to the next one. So like, subscribe. Next video, can I stop saying the word so before I start every paragraph? I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna try and see if I can stop saying so often. So don't rewatch this video because you'll hear it as much as I heard all of them. Alright, bye!